It took us at least 6 or 8 months to get here, but we've finally got the idea of what the Crash remakes are going to be, and pretty much most of it is called it.
Yep. A few things we deduced by other stuff, like the actual scan of the Crash could very well be like a modern version of what the Crash could look like.
Hmm.
What do you know? He does.
Yeah, it's a retool. Well, again, like you said, a lot of the stuff we expected this this package of all three games is kind of like yeah, they were going to do that. Yeah, of course they would do that. Oh yeah, but anyway, but at least to say we've finally got some footage of it and some info on it now.
Yeah. Aptly named, which is pretty appropriate,
Yeah.
Crash Bandicoot N.Sane Trilogy.
Yes.
How else could you do it?
Well, let's be fair. This is a series that most of the level names are pun references or jokes on other names anyway, so they're
Yes.
going with tradition.
It is I, Embryo. My name sounds like a fetus.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll talk about him soon.
Yeah. So, officially announced at the PlayStation Experience 2016, Crash Bandicoot N.Sane Trilogy is coming out to the PlayStation 4, I think digitally, because there doesn't seem to be any other pre-order.
There is a pre-order for a physical box, at least. I have seen that floating around, or at
Right.
least like a
The
box.
only one, but on the pre-order website, on the website itself, crashbandicoot.com, it says the United States like retailer PlayStation Store. So maybe in select countries they may be a physical release, but I won't put it past them because
Again,
I wouldn't mind having a physical copy of this.
to be fair, I think they would do this as a physical release, considering that they made a big deal out of this whole ordeal. I mean, let's be fair, Sony has not has. Let's be fair, what Sony done for the last few years is teased us, fondled us, touched our childhood memories and messed them in many very ways. But that's sounding worse than it should sound.
Point
But
on
let's be
point on the door where Sony has teased your nostalgia.
exactly. I mean, let's be fair, they've been hinting at this stuff for ages, and the fact that now there's like, okay, here it is in its full glory for you to go up at.
Yeah. All three games in all HD graphics, which looks fucking beautiful. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I know some people are going to say like, oh, you could do a lot more with this, but then again, it'll be less of a remake than anything. Less of a remake and more like, oh, here's our version how we do it.
Yeah.
Because
Was that?
from the gameplay perspective, it doesn't like much has changed. Maybe a bit more, I don't know, free flowing, so it doesn't feel as stiff.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the same level design, the same locales, the same basic gameplay. Because
Yeah.
Because it's just like it's a 3D platform. It's like let's just take a 2D platform, make it 3D, because that's what Crash was at the beginning.
Hmm. Exactly. I mean, the thing really with this is like we were always guessing that what they would do with this was more like a sort of odd world new and tasty, which was like it was going to keep the basis gameplay the same, but obviously update the visuals and do the sort of this is how the game would look like in your head type deal.
Yeah, it's like we both agree that Crash Bandicoot 1 is the most unforgiving one of the trilogy.
Mm.
And plus, it's probably one of the most it's unfair to say like the most broken one, but that's not saying much. It's like
No.
like I said, it has stiff controls, some bad camera angles, and for at the time the technology, because they didn't know what they fully was PS1 was probably capable of until FGS came out.
Exactly.
There's a lot of programming stuff that held it back.
Basically, they did a lot of tricky things just to make it look like the way it is.
Yeah, the Ghoul engine is that's what they developed until Spyro came along saying, oh, you do know you can actually make a low poly version of stuff until you get closer.
Yeah, I think, but that's the difference really with Naughty Dog and Insomniac, which they were going like for a strict sort of Sonic ass, make a game like it was from Sonic's back end basic view, and just optimize the game as best you could. Whereas Spyro was more like, let's do free roaming, but let's see how far we can do without blowing the processor up.
Yeah, I think the Ghoul stuff people are still using it because I watched a video called Boundary Break. And when Sega was making Adventure 2, they actually used the same kind of loading stuff coming up, but get rid of the stuff you just left behind.
Mm.
That's what Ghoul is.
Yeah.
So with this, you don't have to, considering the juggernaut of what the PS4 is, especially the PS4 Pro coming out, or at least released.
Yeah, we should really mention that this game is coming out by Vicarious Visions, who most of the stuff has mainly been licensed stuff, or like Guitar Hero, Spider-Man, the Skylander series,
Wolverine's Revenge, and Star Wars Jedi Outcast. Like they have a lot. Tony Hawk's, obviously. There's a lot of very shit games on this.
Well,
But
they're not shit. It's kind of the stuff that you expect. It's like, oh, here's a tie-in license game, or
hey, here's a tie into Shark Tale, everyone. Do you remember the
yeah,
Shark Tale? What a
yeah,
piece of shit that was.
yeah. Just go and watch DreamWorks are already on that. You'll pretty much get the idea of that film.
But as
But
far,
anyway,
yeah, but yeah, you can do this one.
okay, then. But anyway, the main thing is obviously that they have worked on Crash before. They did the two Game Boy games, XL, Huge Adventure, Entrance, and Nitro Kart, which for me, I would say was the last Crash game to be in the sort of the style and tone that people remember Crash Bandicoot to be before the changeover between Insanity and Titans. So they have experience with it, and of course they did the Thumpy Wumpa Island for the Skylanders Imagineering pack. So
Yeah, because Vicarious Visions also is the developer for the entirety of Skylanders.
exactly, yeah. And actually, there's a little bit of a blur because obviously, when news finally came out, obviously the internet's littered with hype and craze, and obviously stuff like what the intent of this game was. And the thing they've said here in a little statement is the idea of the game is that a they wanted to keep as much as what the game was before, like what Naughty Dog did all those years ago. On the one hand, they said like they didn't consider it a remake, but they didn't want to do they want to fully remake it. In terms of they didn't want to go back in and reinvent everything from scratch. It was like keep the basis of what made the game great, what made the three games worked, and just really, just polish it off, make it visually pleasing to the eye. And, in their statement they say they consider it more as a remastered plus. And again, I totally agree with that in that sense, because really, I think the idea with this game was obviously that it is essentially an anniversary game in many ways. If you compare this to say with Generations, it's clearly like saying this is what you remember, but hopefully we pushed it to 11.
Do you know what else is the anniversary this year? Jak and Daxter.
Yeah, well then, there you go. Yeah, Naughty Dog had some news about their own stuff, but Jak and Daxter didn't turn up, so there you go.
Mm.
Now we wait for the wilderness years of Jak and Daxter before they get their comeback, so...
Yeah, pretty much. Give it another 5 years. It's like we're remaking the first game to be more polished and be like the others, and it's like that and all that.
Yeah, if I actually just quickly going back on to keep this on track, is like the funny thing with Crash 1 particularly is that I used to most of Naughty Dog games, particularly if you look at Crash, Jak, and Uncharted, really they sort of had that sort of the power of three type thing with all their games, in which the first ones in all the series are technically advanced, beautiful looking, and decently well made, but they're not exactly pushing anything new in gameplay wise or really changing.
It's just okay. Here's what we can do right now.
Yeah.
A year or two later, we're going to take that and see how far we can push it.
Yeah, and the second game is basically, okay, now we got our feet on the ground, let's really figure out how to make this bigger, better, faster, all that stuff, and, normally
because the first year or so is developing an engine that is capable of actually making the game. Especially with Jak and Daxter 1, where the goal, which is aptly named, was just making the world itself so they can actually have a whole world that just loads instantly.
Yeah, I mean...
with Jak 2, it's like, okay, we're going to do the game that we want to do with this.
Yeah. I mean, put it this way, actually. When Crash 1 came out, I mean, ironically, at the time, people were saying that you're not Mario, you're not Sonic, you are not these giants of the industry at that point. And, even if you look back at reviews, that's what everybody was kept saying. It was like, oh, it's a good game, but it's not Mario, it's not Sonic, and, the whole point of the game is that it was trying to be its own thing. As much as it was taking from Sonic in some essence, it was trying to be its own unique game. And like I said, by 2 and 3, it finally established this is what Crash is, this is what the series is about, and how the play style sets out.
Which is pretty unfair. It's like, especially when a newer game comes out, it's like, oh, this game's trying to be Batman.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
It's like, well, obviously it's not trying to be, but it's got inspired by it. Because that's how a lot of games work.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is that you're always going to get people who are, in some cases, you're going to accuse them as, oh, you're just trying to imitate somebody else's work. In reality, it's more like they didn't consciously think that it was saying, what can we make from what we have, rather than, let's just nick his stuff and see if we can get away with it.
Especially with making games, it's not like, oh, I've got my own character. It's essentially Mario with Sonic spikes.
Yeah.
It's original game. I call it Sinos, the Hedgeman.
Yeah, that type of stuff. I mean, the only time end this very quickly, this little like tangent we're going on, but the only time that's ever really happened, the only time I know that somebody actually purposely said we were trying to rip it off was Team 17, where they were trying to do Worms Call of Duty, which they basically said, yeah, we were just doing a Call of Duty with Worms. We were just trying to do that, and we were trying to sell it to Activision, which they said no. But anyway,
then there's Plants vs Zombies: Garden Warfare.
but yeah, hey, the circle of irony, the irony circle.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But overall, what do we think of this trailer for a trilogy of games that we wholeheartedly fucking love? Well, more Crash 2 for me.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, we normally talk about Sonic on this little podcast we do, but let's be fair, we're as big a fan of Crash as anything else.
Yeah, well, Crash and Spyro. Spyro more for me than you, but we're both big Crash fans.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I was going in, I mean, funny enough, after I've been rewatching the trailer and having seen it, clearly, like, visually, it's obviously up there in visual terms. I mean, there are one or two issues I have with it, but we'll start off with the basis. As in, the fact the trailer is called The Comeback, they're announcing, saying this is the comeback of a legend, it's not just, oh, he's a guy, we're reintroducing him. It's like, no, you know who this guy is. Here he is in his full glory again.
Yeah, and the best way to do that is like, oh, it's a comeback? Okay, when do you come back from where? And little kids will go over like, oh, Crash Bandicoot. Oh, I can download it for the PlayStation Store on the PS3 and Vita. I'll get that.
Exactly.
And then they can die and die and die and die and die.
Yeah.
Visually, the level design looks good. The Crash model, like I said before, it looks like the Skylanders one, but a bit more detailed. He has fur. He has fur from the Xbox version of Raffle Cortex.
Yeah, well, funny enough, I was going to say, when I first saw it, it reminded me a lot of the Raffle Cortex model, except, it's more in line of what Crash looked like in the original 3 games.
I'm surprised they actually kept the Crash dance.
Yeah, you can't have a Crash game without the Crash dance. I mean, hell, the Japanese invented that.
Sorry, the Crash Bash. That's what it's called.
Right, well, whatever. Basically, his signature dance, yeah, it's in there. Don't worry about that, fans.
Yeah. Even Cortex looks like he's from Skylanders.
Yeah, well, again, I will say, I'm kind of surprised that they went and did new models anyway, because I would have, if it was me, I would have just gone like, let's just take the Skylander models and just put them in the game. I thought like, well, that would save some money, and, they look good enough to work. And so I'm kind of surprised they rejigged them a little bit again. But, still looks fairly decent.
Yeah. Aku Aku looks great.
Aku Aku just looks like what you expect Aku Aku to look like.
Yeah, the levels themselves, they only showed off like the first level and the
heavy machinery.
You fucking, you don't have to quiz that one, did you?
No, well, let's be fair, the moment this came out, I immediately was on the web trying to figure out every piece of information that's out there, or at least as best as I can, so.
Okay, so you cheated.
It's not cheating, it's research.
Oh yeah, heavy machinery, and that one looks, that level gave me a bit of trouble, but that looks like really good, like all the colours just pop off the screen.
Yeah, there's a nice, like, the toxic sludge coming out of the walls, there's a nice glow when you go past it, so there's a nice light. There's actually real lighting effects in this now, instead of just, what they tried to cumble up in the PS1 games.
Yeah, just a bit of a texture that's coming off it.
Yeah, basic texture animation, yeah. But yeah, I mean, we should quickly go through, some of the stuff that is new in the game in terms of what they've added to this one. I mean, some of it we, again, predicted, but the main things are, A, there is finally a save game system and a unified checkpoint, so the game can either manually be saved or auto-save this time, so you don't have to do a bonus level to do it anymore.
Thank fuck for that!
So it's finally good. The menu system is like the one in 2 and 3, so it's kind of got its own style of, so when you press pause you get, how many lives, crystals, blah blah stuff, and that type of thing. And also, first time in this game, in fact, actually, funny enough, in this and Crash 2, you're going to get time trial modes in these.
Why?
Well, speedrunners, they're out there, they're going to do this type of shit.
It's just, I don't know, I just don't like the idea of time trials in Crash game. I mean, it was like kind of fun, but at the same time, it's like, why would you add them for Crash 1? It seems kind of meaningless.
Well, to be fair, I think, let's be fair, Crash 1 is still a challenging game, so I think having that in is like, okay, you think you've done Crash well, alright, now try and do it as fast as you can. So, again, it's adding a bit more, a challenge to a game that's already challenging.
Yeah, my only concern, so the save system is fixed, so thank God for that. Yeah. Is the box checkpoint thing good? Although I have to play for the entire level to get all the boxes the
They
first
have,
try.
well, I mean, the regular checkpoints are still in there, but they've managed to work out, if you die, you don't have to go back all the way back 3 or 4 levels, or the last save point, in the game.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so we don't have that anymore.
Because that's the thing that has completely shattered my. I would say I have. It's like I never actually 100%. I have completed Crash, but it's just to a point where it's just like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
I mean, slippery climb, fucking hell.
Yeah, well, put it this way, we've only seen bits of the level. Part of me is going like, I wonder what Road to Nowhere is going to be like, because, oh boy.
Oh, fuck.
Exactly, I'm just saying, we've seen the first level and one later level. All the other levels, into particularly what you have to do in them, is like, oh boy, God knows what you got to do in there. So, but also, I will say that some of the stuff that everybody knows, I mean, the bonus levels are still in there, so you can still get the Tawana heads and the Embryo heads as well, so you can still do them to get the gems or the keys, to fully 100% the game. The other few new things about this, which I had a feeling they would do, is first of all, they've redone obviously all the cinematics to match up with the new look, and again, it's like the Oddworld thing, it's plays the same, but there's little differences or changes. And the big thing I kind of expect them to do was the voice cast is the guys from pretty much Twin Sanity Titans onwards. So we're getting Lex again as Cortex, Jess as Crash, Embryo from guy who played him in Brain, from Mind of a Mutant is still Embryo, so that'd be fun. Playing him or a demented version of himself.
Yeah. For one little thing, the people who are listening, you'll notice we're talking about Crash 1 a lot because that's all they showed off.
Yeah.
There is a screenshot, which I'm going to put up now, showing off more characters, but three of the boss characters and one hero character,
Side character, yeah.
is missing.
Yeah.
So there's no Coco, there's no Ripperoo or Tiny Tiger or Dingo Dial.
Yeah, at the minute.
Currently, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm more or less guessing that they're just showing these just to get people excited and, they're saving the other characters for later on. And that's the thing, because I'm thinking, obviously they want to show the first game because it has such a big nostalgia factor, and then once the game starts to come, once the next year comes on, and then of course the build up to the release, they're going to obviously showcase 2 and 3 and, nostalgia the fest out of the hell out of them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
This will sell like hotcakes, and if it sells enough, please, everyone listening, get a PS4 and get this fucking game.
Yeah, I mean, that is my only, the fact that we've gone to this far now to actually get Crash Bandicoot back, particularly on PlayStation, because let's be fair, that's like, if we were going to get him back, you want to put him back on the system that arguably made the PlayStation into a name.
Other than Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, there's lots of other games, but Crash Bandicoot was definitely one of the things.
It's the one for kids. It's the one that actually got kids.
He is the unofficial mascot Sony never wanted, but had him anyway type deal. And quite frankly, if they're gone hell level with saying, all right, you know what, it took us this long to realize that people do care about this guy, let's bring him back in a big way. So
yeah, he hasn't had another game since 2011, was it?
2008 actually. Might have been. Yeah, 2008. Yeah, we've gone this fucking far, folks. We've waited a long time.
A Man of a Mutant was a piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, really,
not a terrible broken game. It's just it wasn't fun.
I mean, that's the problem. I mean, that's the end of the day. The reason we're getting this is basically, well, we know these 3 games are fun, so hopefully we can keep that intact. So that's they got a safe bet in there.
I'll still say Tag Team is good as well.
Oh yeah, Tag Team Racing is still good. Again, I like Titans, whatever. I mean, this is I've one problem with Crash before, and I'll get into some issues I have with the remaster, but one problem with Crash is, like, once Naughty Dog moved over to being a Sony company only, and of course, what's on Jack and Uncharted, I mean, the problem with Crash was they didn't really know what to do with him. I think the problem with Universal and Sierra and Activision for a while was like, what do we do with this guy? At first it was like, oh, let's just do what the PS1 games did again. And
technically, because originally we want to make an open world Crash game, but they had to can't move that.
I mean, this is the thing. There's a ton of stories out there about all different concepts and ideas. There was an open world Crash game. Twin Sanity was going to be bigger and more complex. We were going to go to different dimensions. Hell, they even had a spin-off game about Cortex and all things. But yeah, I mean, for a while it was basically just do Crash 3 and Team Racing again, but they weren't really that fun. And then you get to the Game Boy games, which kind of worked anyway because the games were part of
but they kind of defeat the purpose. Like, get to play Crash Bandicoot on the go. Yeah, in 2D. What?
So, yeah, but that's the thing. And then really when you get to Twinsanity, again, it was trying to really push the series into a new direction. And in some cases it worked. In fact, I was recently replaying it, and there are things in it I still admire about it. There's a lot of things that, again, I've said before, it could have been it could have been one of the best Crash games out there if there was more time, if they had a chance to put this stuff in. But as we got, it's an okay, solid. I think you once said it was kind of like a decent, like, tech demo game. I think you said once.
Yeah, because there's so many bugs in it and so many ways to break the game. It's practically a tech demo released full price.
Yeah, well, ended up becoming released because of time.
Yeah.
Um,
Titans was a fun new.
Titans, I felt was
It was a fun new look.
Yeah, Titans for me was really the first time they were trying to give the series a real new lease of life. It was like the near enough a full reboot type thing, and it felt like it was a direction they could have gone down where. And Mind of Mutant, again, could have been great, but really the problem with that was...
Okay, let's just... Okay, now you can have two Titans on the go, even though they're now called mutants, and make it open world. What about a transport system? What?
Yeah, the problem with the game is that for every idea they said that was in the game sounded good, is that what happened in the actual game just didn't really work out. That was the problem with that game.
It's good you can pocket the Titans. I'm going to call them Titans anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, it's like, good idea. Carry around Titans, great. You're going to do one. Oh. Good idea. You have a bigger world. Great. Except it's all linear and it's not really open world. Oh.
You can actually travel back and forth to these areas. Great. But there's no quick travel system. Oh.
Oh. So
not until near the end of the fucking game.
Near the end of the game where they decided they're going to do it and they did it as a fucking joke. So, like I said...
Animations were good.
Yeah, the little, different animation styles they used throughout the entire game, that was fun. I will say, you kind of forget what the game actually looked like because of all the different variation styles, but they were fun. But like I said, I think the big problem in the end was that Radical Entertainment were getting short-staffed and people getting sacked, and of course, eventually they're no longer with us as a studio. So, it was really, I think that game suffered because of cutbacks, really.
Well, at least it wasn't completely broken.
Yeah. So all these years we've been sort of hoping and waiting for a new Crash game. And of course there was Crash Landed, which, we know a lot about now, which could have been the big reboot people were kind of hoping or expecting to happen with the series, but that eventually died off as well.
And there also was that attempt to bring a fourth Crash racing game.
Yeah, there was the Crash Team Racing 2010 type thing. Yeah, that's what it's kind of called. But we've waited a long time for this. And we'll try and end it here, but this will be the last bits to really talk about. I mean, there are one or two things from what I've seen of this, the N.Sane Trilogy game. There are one or two things that I have little issues with, and they're mostly just tiny, niggles, I have. I mean, first of all, the game does look good, but if I'm honest, I don't think it looks as lush as, say, the Skylanders level they did. I think it's a little bit bland in places. Second is the color is a bit scaled down a little bit. It's not as bright as the original game, because if you've watched the trailer, there's actually a sequence where they actually show you the PS1 game and the PS4 game, and you can sort of see that there's things about it that don't look quite right. It's like, I mean, obviously it's got improved lighting and stuff and all that business, but it does, part of me, I think, like, the color of it and kind of the flurry of it is somewhat missing. Although whether or not what we've seen so far is still, like, not finished, it's a late build of the game, playable for people that the PlayStation experience. But again, I'm still hopeful for the game anyway. I mean, it's minor things like that, but
that's just nitpicks. And even I can still go on a nitpick of the fact that it still only shows the first game, even though a lot of people would have more nostalgic memories for 2 and 3.
3, yeah,
especially 3.
Yeah. Like I said, it's minor things, but again, this is probably still early days and, advertisement and all this stuff, so we've still got, like, a good few months before the game finally comes out, and we'll see if there's any changes or not, hopefully, for the better.
Hopefully.
Yeah. But outside of that, we're just happy that Crash is finally back now. It's taken this long, it's taken a while for figuring out how would he come back, but he's back now, and the fact that I think really we're just like next year is going to be a highlight at least. I mean, if anything else, this year alone has not been good for either of us for personal reasons, which we won't go into. But I will say that the one bit of comfort we had is like, Crash is coming back. He's going to be back in games. He appeared as a cameo in Uncharted 4. He's in Skylanders as a guest character. He's not stuck to that series, and he's going to be back in his own series. So, and he appeared in television as well. So, quite frankly, that was like the high points in, was been kind of a drab year for some of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we can safely say that we fucking called it.
Yeah, we called it. I mean, in the case of, we told you so type deal, but in the sense that we told you so, so everybody else is happy. So, hey.
Yeah, it's like over a year ago we discussed about the future of Crash and we fucking called it. Like, let's do, I'm pretty sure I could find it, like, I think we quoted saying just do a HD remake of the trilogy.
Do a HD, built from the ground up type game, and that will work. So,
and it's going to.
It's going to. I mean, I hope that as long as people buy it. So, for God's sakes, buy it. I'll end it here.
So we can actually get a brand new Crash game.
Exactly. So, if this does well, then maybe Crash can properly continue afterwards. But yeah, I want to end on this note though. I was watching, as you know, I was watching on the PlayStation Live thing, and this came up of other games. And ironically, one game that did pop up during that event was Knack 2. And I don't know how many people remember or even bothered about with Knack, because when the PS4 came out, that essentially was, here is our kind of sort of spiritual homage wannabe Crash Bandicoot game for this new system, and most people didn't really care about it for the most part. I mean, it wasn't a terrible game. I've never played it. I guess you haven't had the chance either.
I played a demo of it. It was okay.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it's like for a while that kind of seemed like, well, I guess this is the nearest we're going to get to a kind of like Crash comeback in some ways. And the fact being that now he's back, they've decided to bring Nat back as well. So I just find that bizarre and ironic at the same time.
And also kind of weird is Naughty Dog is working on a Last of Us Part 2 and I guess, spin-off to Uncharted called Lost Legacy.
Well, let's be fair, we were guessing they were going to do another Uncharted. Well, really, it was more or less given the fact that they were going to do another Last of Us game at some point, and some Uncharted game in some other way without Nathan Drake, so... Again, called it.
Mm. So, Crash Bandicoot 4... Well, not Crash Bandicoot 4, what the fuck? I had Uncharted 4 in my head for a second.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Crash Bandicoot N.Sane Trilogy, what do you think of it? Let us know in the comments below. Also, click on the playlist to listen to us ramble.
As we do.
Also, subscribe to our channels as well for future podcasts.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
I'm not gonna do the end screen every time, you know.
Alright. I was gonna say, so now is the perfect time to go insane.
Literally.
Yeah.